every time the Hall of Fame comes up, there seems to be more garbage, more politics, more things that don't involve how good a player actually was. It seems to come down to how writers felt about a person, their emotions, not their empirical evaluation of those players, as we have seen many be excluded from the Hall of Fame for various reasons, many of which are that the writers simply didn't like the person. They will find reasons not to vote for that person. They will do all sorts of mental gymnastics to find a way for other players they do like that suffer from the same flaws as players they don't like, but find a way to put those people that they like into the Hall of Fame. And we're seeing that once again this week. I think you had a perfect example that you could run by us.
Yeah, it seems that Big Papi, a writer's darling, I guess.
Yes, he's the world's darling. I love Papi. I mean,
he's
not to like.
Yeah, he's a very jolly fella.
He got shot and came back from it. I mean,
yeah, it's true.
Dude's tough.
You better bring a bazooka to the fight with Papi. So he had a PED problem. He was linked to PEDs, but
he has the same link to PEDs as Sammy Sosa does. There's probably more evidence against Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, players and A-Rod and people like that who have actually A-Rod actually admitted it.
Well, A-Rod admitted it and then actually tested after it was a rule too. I mean, A-Rod's got a few blemishes against his.
But Big Papi, as you said, emerged on the Mitchell report, which was not supposed to be leaked to anyone. It was PED testing before there was a rule against it. Those names were never supposed to be leaked, but of course they were leaked. And that is the evidence that many writers have used against players of the 90s and 2000s to keep them out of the Hall of Fame with their moral standing clause. So now, like you said, now voters are choosing to vote for their buddy Big Papi and not for other players.
Yeah, and in particular, Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, the
greatest pitcher and batter maybe in baseball history if you look at their stats.
Yeah, and if you look at Bonds stats, and I've probably brought this up before. I mean, long before steroids. I mean,
he was a Hall of Famer.
He was a Hall of Famer.
90. I think he was like still the only person to be in the 300 home run, 300 steals club. That was in 1996.
Yes, that was 1996. Yes. He's the only player in the 500 club.
Yeah.
So
it's not a question.
In 1990, his with the fucking Pirates, his WAR was 9.9 that season.
Put him in the Hall of Fame.
In the 1993 with the Giants, it was a 10.5 WAR in his first season. If you're looking at that, all of a sudden 96 rolls around and everyone's getting larger. But yeah, I mean, it's just the biggest hypocrisy going out there. And what makes it more frustrating is now the thing to do on Twitter is have these writers go ahead and post who they voted for.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest, when I see David Ortiz checked, and I don't see Barry Bonds, I don't see Roger Clemens, I have, been calling these guys out.
I think we should call them assholes specifically.
Yeah. And the last shred of where the voting was at, I saw is Papi was at 86% and Bonds was at 78%. It's 75% to get in. So likely of Bonds getting in is probably pretty low because I'm sure they haven't counted all the absent votes for him on those ballots yet. So he's right on the edge there. I mean,
well, but your point though is whatever the collective figures out. I mean, the idea that Barry Bonds shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame is still ridiculous to me when you are voting for other PED people or people we'll never know. This whole era, this is the murkiness and this is the tragedy and everything else associated with PEDs. We will never know. So for for writers to be making value judgments, not on statistics, basically on their emotions, is ridiculous. And this is really why I've checked out of the whole Hall of Fame in general, the voting process, the celebrations, all of it. I'm out. I'm just not interested because these fucking writers aren't looking at things empirically, and that is what it should be.
Yeah.
So I think it's a perfect position to take, since we'll never know. We have evidence. Poppy is on that. That's, it's a fairly, it's not the biggest mountain of evidence against him, but there is evidence, and that many writers have used that against him. So how do you use that against other PED offenders, but not Big Poppy? Makes you a fucking asshole.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, he could be a first ballot Hall of Famer at this point.
Yeah,
which is even crazier.
Well, I think his resume speaks to it. I mean, his boy. I mean, I was talking about John Lester earlier about his postseason performance. I mean, Big Poppy is probably one of the more clutch hitters in postseason history. You just see it over and over again. Unfortunately, I should be biased against that motherfucker because the 2013 ALCS, Big Poppy hit a grand slam off Joaquin Benoit, where the Torrey Hunter flips over the bullpen wall and that goddamn cop is celebrating in the bullpen. That is one of the quintessential Big Poppy moments that changed that series. That is the reason the Tigers did not win the World Series that year, as they were going to go up 2-0 in that series in Boston and go back to Detroit, only needing to win 2. And we're going to mow down the NL's opponent in the World Series. And so I have all the reasons to be against Big Poppy, and I am not in this regard at all. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But if he's in the Hall of Fame, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, even as I don't want to see it, A-Rod, they all need to be in the fucking Hall of Fame. And I think you had a specific example in Chicago of a Chicago writer you wanted to point out who is fallen prey to this emotional argument.
Yeah, I mean, David Haw, who's on the Molly and Hall show in the morning and also a writer for the Chicago Tribune, posted his ballot, and he had Big Poppy checked off, and no one else who was linked to PEDs, that no one who was publicly linked to PEDs
Correct.
checked off on his ballot. And I just told him, I just replied back to him, not voting for Bonds should be considered criminal. And
I don't know if it's criminal, but
it's fucking criminal, folks. It's fucking criminal. He should be arrested. I mean, we continue to hold baseball players up to this standard of, if they weren't friendly to me when I requested an interview, I don't care what their stats are. I'm not going to vote for them.
Yeah, it's just.
I mean, think about. As much as I like to give you Cubs fans shit about Ron Santo, he had better third base numbers than half the guys who were in the Hall of Fame at third base. But he was a dick to reporters.
Yep.
And
so they waited till after he fucking died to put him in.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, if that's not bitterness, I don't know what is. I mean,
wow.
And the fact that something that is probably could be important to a lot of players, like giving them that distinguishing mark, like honoring their entire career, is held in the hands of basically man children, is sad. Yeah. It really is. And I'm with you. Like, when I see someone voted into the Hall of Fame, like, when it seems justified, I'm happy. Frank Thomas got in on first ballot, should have, So, but then, like, I love Harold Baines. Harold Baines is a great guy, but I will always bring this up. He doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
No.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, that's a whole nother argument there.
But. Yeah. I mean, he played 3 seasons too long and still couldn't get to that 3,000th hit. So, I mean, it's like, it's just all so silly.
The Hall of Fame has made fools of themselves for years now, and this is why I feel like we probably spent more time than we need to on this subject, because I don't want to belabor the point. But I think it's safe to say we can call anyone who voted for David Ortiz, but not other people on the Mitchell report or with ties to PEDs. There are our assholes of the week.
Boom.
Boom.
Word Hole Media.